General Nathaniel Drake stood at the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing three massive vessels in Earth's orbit. At 63, with 4 decades of military service, he had seen everything from desert storms to Arctic warfare. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. "They've been broadcasting for 8 hours now," said Director Juniper Wong of the Global Space Administration, her usually steady voice tinged with awe. The message repeats in every major Earth language. The message was simple yet devastating. "We seek sanctuary. The Nexar Empire follows. Please help us." The crystalline ships hanging above Earth belonged to the Meridians, a species that had achieved interstellar travel centuries before humans launched their first satellite. Their vessels resembled massive diamonds, refracting sunlight in patterns that dazzled Earth's observers. But closer inspection revealed battle damage, deep gouges in their hulls, and hastily repaired sections that spoke of recent combat. "What's the status of our global defense network?" asked Chancellor Amara Okonjo, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical displays. "All systems ready," replied General Drake. "But if these Meridians wanted to attack, they could have done so hours ago. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." The chamber doors opened, admitting Dr. Rajesh Malhotra, Earth's leading xenolinguist. "The Meridians are requesting a face-to-face meeting," he announced. "They're willing to land a single shuttle with their diplomatic team." The council chamber erupted in heated debate. Some nations pushed for immediate military response, others for diplomatic engagement. The argument ended when the long-range sensors detected something that chilled everyone to the bone: massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system, consistent with the arrival of a much larger fleet. "The Nexar Empire," whispered Wong. "They found us." The decision was made in minutes. A landing zone was prepared at the International Spaceport in Geneva, and General Drake was selected to lead the welcome delegation. As he stood on the tarmac watching the Meridian shuttle descend, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was about to change forever. The shuttle was beautiful, a teardrop of living crystal that touched down without a sound. When the hatch opened, the Meridians emerged. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in what appeared to be living crystal armor that shifted colors with their movements. Their faces were eerily humanoid, but with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, each one glowing with inner light. The lead Meridian stepped forward, raising both hands in a gesture of peace. "I am High Speaker Lyra," she said, her voice like chiming bells. "We come seeking not just refuge, but alliance. The Nexar Empire has conquered half the galaxy, turning free worlds into slave colonies. We are among the last free species." General Drake studied the alien delegation carefully. Despite their otherworldly appearance, he could read their body language well enough. They were exhausted, desperate, and afraid. "I am General Nathaniel Drake," he responded. "On behalf of Earth's nations, welcome. But I must ask, why us? We're centuries behind you technologically." Lyra's crystal armor shifted to a deep blue. "Because you are unique. We have watched your species for decades. You possess something rare in the galaxy, the perfect balance of cooperation and competition, of creation and destruction. Most importantly, you understand something the Nexar never will." "And what's that?" asked Chancellor Okonjo, who had joined them on the tarmac. "The price of freedom," Lyra replied. "Your history is written in blood and triumph, in wars and reconciliation. You know how to fight for your beliefs, yet you also know how to forge peace from conflict. The Nexar only know conquest. They cannot comprehend an enemy that fights not for territory or resources, but for principles." The meeting moved inside as Earth's leaders gathered to hear the full story. The Nexar Empire, Lyra explained, had evolved from hive-minded sectoids. They expanded through the galaxy like a plague, assimilating or destroying all in their path. Their ships were biological nightmares, their weapons shot streams of living acid, and their ground forces were numberless hordes of drone warriors. "We can offer you technology," Lyra said, projecting holographic schematics that made Earth's scientists gasp in wonder. "Knowledge of faster-than-light travel, energy shields, quantum communications. In return, we need your warriors, your generals, your strategic minds. Most of all, we need your will to fight. General Drake looked at the tactical displays showing the Nexar fleet approaching. They had perhaps 3 days before they reached Earth. The choice was clear: hide and hope to be spared, or stand and fight not just for humanity, but for galactic freedom. If we do this, he said, we do it all the way. No half measures. The Nexar want to make humanity their latest conquest? Fine. Instead, we'll show them why picking a fight with Earth was their biggest mistake. The next 72 hours would see humanity mobilize like never before. As Meridian scientists began sharing their technology, Earth's military forces prepared for a war unlike any in human history. The age of terrestrial conflicts was over. The era of humanity's first interstellar war was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Colonel Morgan Reeves stood in the newly constructed Humanity Defense Command Center, watching as holographic displays showed the ongoing transformation of Earth's military infrastructure. At 42, she had spent her career preparing for wars that never came. Now, humanity faced its greatest challenge, and she was at the forefront of its response. The integration of Meridian crystal tech with our conventional weapons is proceeding faster than expected, reported Chief Engineer Kenzo Tanaka, his fingers dancing across floating holographic controls. The crystal resonance amplifies our railgun capabilities by roughly 300%. Above them, through the transparent ceiling of the command center, massive construction platforms floated in the sky, another gift of Meridian technology. What had once been science fiction was now reality as humanity raced against time to prepare for the Nexar threat. "Show me the orbital defense grid," Morgan commanded. The holographic display shifted, revealing a network of satellites being rapidly upgraded with crystalline weapons. Traditional nuclear missiles were being retrofitted with Meridian phase shift technology, allowing them to bypass even the most advanced Nexar shields. High Speaker Lyra entered the command center, her crystalline form catching the light. "Your species continues to surprise us," she said, observing the various projects underway. "We expected the technology integration to take months. You've done it in weeks." "Necessity breeds innovation," Morgan replied, pulling up another display. "But we're doing more than just adopting your technology. We're improving it." The display showed a new class of hybrid vessel under construction. While Meridian ships were elegant crystals designed for speed and energy projection, these new human-designed warships were more angular, combining crystal technology with traditional human military doctrine. They weren't beautiful, but they were deadly. "The Nexar have never faced ships like these," explained Kenzo, pride evident in his voice. "They're used to enemies who either try to match their biological technology or copy Meridian designs. We're creating something entirely new." In orbital shipyards, the first vessels of humanity's defense fleet took shape. They were christened the Wrath-class destroyers, smaller than Meridian ships but more heavily armed. Unlike the crystalline vessels of their allies or the organic ships of the Nexar, these were built for one purpose: war. Director Wong appeared on a holographic feed from the Global Space Administration headquarters. "The first wave of Nexar scouts has been detected near Jupiter," she reported. "Our new sensor network confirms they're conducting detailed scans of our system." "Let them look," Morgan said grimly. "Let them see what we're building. Fear is a weapon too." The transformation wasn't limited to military assets. Across Earth, society reorganized itself for the coming conflict. Schools incorporated alien language and technology courses into their curricula. Factories retooled to produce new hybrid weapons and armor. Farmers adapted their methods to include Meridian crystal growth techniques that quadrupled food production. In the Brazilian rainforest, vast crystal tech manufacturing facilities rose from the ground, their structures designed to harmonize with the local ecosystem rather than destroy it. In the Sahara, enormous energy collection arrays powered the global construction effort. Humanity was not just preparing for war, it was evolving. "Your people adapted our metallurgy techniques beyond our predictions," Lyra observed, watching a demonstration of new crystal-enhanced battle armor. We never considered combining it with your nuclear physics. That's because you see crystal tech as perfect, Kinzo explained. We see it as a foundation to build upon. Speaking of which, you should see what we've done with your communication systems. He brought up another display showing a new quantum entanglement network that used crystal resonance to achieve instantaneous communication across vast distances. The Meridians had used similar technology, but human engineers had pushed it further, creating a system that could penetrate even Nexar jamming. General Drake arrived for the daily briefing, his expression serious. The Nexar border fleet will reach our system in approximately 48 hours, he announced. Their main invasion force follows 3 days behind. We'll be ready, Morgan assured him, though she knew the cost would be high. Humanity had never faced an enemy like this, an enemy that saw them not as worthy opponents, but as insects to be conquered. In training facilities worldwide, soldiers learned to fight alongside Meridian allies. The crystal being's natural abilities complemented human tactical thinking, creating combined units that could adapt to any situation. But it was in space combat training that humanity truly excelled. You fight differently than any species we've encountered, Lyra noted, watching a simulation where human pilots used seemingly suicidal maneuvers to achieve victory. The Nexar rely on overwhelming force. The Meridians prefer elegant, precise strikes. But humans, we fight dirty, Morgan finished. We fight to win, whatever it takes. The Nexar think they're invading a primitive world. They're about to learn they've walked into a nightmare. As the deadline approached, humanity's transformation neared completion. The orbital defense grid hummed with power. The first fleet of hybrid warships stood ready. Ground forces equipped with crystal-enhanced weapons prepared for possible planetary invasion. But perhaps most importantly, Earth had achieved something unprecedented, true global unity in the face of an external threat. Old enemies now worked together, sharing resources and knowledge. Regional conflicts were set aside. Humanity had found something stronger than its divisions, a common enemy and a cause worth fighting for. There's still time to evacuate your civilian leadership, Lyra offered. The Meridians can provide safe haven until... No, interrupted Chancellor Okonjo, who had joined them in the command center. Earth stands together. We either win together or fall together. There is no middle ground. As the first Nexar ships appeared on the long-range sensors, humanity finished its preparations. They had done in weeks what should have taken years. Now came the real test, whether it would be enough. The price of war had been high, but the price of surrender would be higher. Humanity had chosen its path. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth's children should never be underestimated. Captain Zara Patel stood on the bridge of the EWS Thunderchild, watching as the combined human Meridian fleet prepared for humanity's first major offensive against the Nexar Empire. The initial defense of Earth had shocked the invaders. Instead of finding easy prey, they'd encountered a sophisticated defense network that shredded their advanced fleet. All ships report ready, Captain, announced Lieutenant James O'Connor, his hands steady on the tactical controls. The Thunderchild was one of humanity's new Wrath-class destroyers, smaller than traditional Meridian vessels but packed with enough firepower to match anything in their weight class. The Nexar still haven't adapted their tactics, reported Intelligence Officer Dante Romano, studying real-time data feeds. They're maintaining traditional formation patterns. They expect us to fight like the Meridians. Zara allowed herself a grim smile. The Nexar were about to learn that humans fought very differently indeed. The past month had seen Earth's forces push the invaders back beyond Mars. But now it was time for something bigger. Operation Stormbreak would take the fight to Nexar-controlled space. High-speaker Lyra's image appeared on the bridge's communication crystal. The Meridian fleet is in position, Captain Patel. Though I must once again express concern about this strategy. It seems unnecessarily risky. Risk is our specialty, Zara replied, checking the tactical display. The human fleet had divided into seemingly vulnerable small groups, appearing to leave gaps in their formation. To the Nexar, it would look like amateur mistakes. In reality, it was a carefully crafted trap. The operation targeted a major Nexar supply hub, a system they'd conquered from another species decades ago. Intelligence suggested it was defended by at least 30 capital ships and hundreds of smaller vessels. The combined human Meridian fleet was outnumbered nearly 2-1. All ships, execute jump sequence, Zara commanded. The fleet vanished into hyperspace, using the new hybrid drives that combine Meridian crystal technology with human innovation. They emerged directly behind the Nexar system's outer defense perimeter. Enemy fleet responding exactly as predicted, Dante reported with satisfaction. The Nexar ships moved to engage, their biological vessels resembling massive insects as they spread out to envelop the seemingly disorganized human forces. Now they'll learn why humans wrote the book on asymmetric warfare, Zara said. Execute pattern Sigma. All ships, weapons free. The human fleet suddenly split apart, individual ships performing maneuvers that the Nexar computers classified as suicidal. But these weren't mistakes. They were precisely calculated chaos. While Meridian vessels engaged the enemy head-on with traditional energy weapons, human ships darted between them, targeting weak points with their hybrid weapons. Multiple confirmed hits, O'Connor reported. Their shields aren't adapted to our frequency-shifting rounds. We're bypassing their defenses completely. The Thunderchild dove through the debris of a destroyed Nexar cruiser, its crystalline-enhanced hull deflecting smaller impacts. Zara had studied recordings of Nexar battle tactics for weeks. They always followed the same patterns, always expected their enemies to behave according to established rules of space combat. But humans had never learned those rules. Launch the ghosts, Zara ordered. From the human ships, thousands of small drones emerged. Unlike traditional combat drones, these were nearly invisible to sensors, using crystal technology to bend light around them. They carried a single weapon each, a modified version of an old human favorite, the computer virus. The Nexar's biological ships were vulnerable to this new form of attack. Their organic computer systems, accustomed to fighting conventional weapons, had no defense against human digital warfare. Ships began to drift, their systems corrupted by code that turned their own biological processes against them. The enemy fleet is in disarray, Dante reported, barely containing his excitement. They're breaking formation, trying to retreat. Now for Phase 2, Zara said. All ships, execute containment pattern. Don't let them escape to warn the others. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, cutting off escape routes while Meridian vessels provided heavy fire support. The Nexar ships, trapped and confused, fell one by one to the combined assault. But the space battle was only part of the operation. As the enemy fleet crumbled, human dropships launched toward the system's primary planet. Inside them, crystal-enhanced marine units prepared for ground combat. Major Victor Torres led the ground assault, his armor's crystal components giving him enhanced strength and speed. Remember your training, he told his troops as their dropship penetrated the atmosphere. The Nexar fight like insects, all instinct, no adaptation. Use that against them. The human forces hit multiple targets simultaneously, communication hubs, defense centers, and most importantly, slave processing facilities. The Nexar had filled this world with captives from other species, forcing them to work in horrible conditions. Those slaves were about to be freed. This is why we're different, Victor told his squad as they breached a processing center, encountering their first Nexar ground troops. The insectoid warriors were fearsome up close, but the humans had trained for this. We're not just here to win. We're here to liberate. The fighting was intense, but one-sided. Human crystal-enhanced weapons cut through Nexar natural armor. Tactical networks coordinated strikes with precision the hive-mind soldiers couldn't match. Within hours, key facilities were under human control. Back in orbit, Zara watched with satisfaction as the last Nexar capital ship fell to combined fire from 3 human destroyers. The operation had been a complete success, but more importantly, it had proven something crucial. Humanity could not only fight the Nexar, they could beat them. Send word to Earth, she ordered. Operation Stormbreak is complete. Casualties minimal. Enemy fleet destroyed. Ground forces report multiple species liberated from Nexar control. High Speaker Lyra's image appeared again, her crystalline form showing colors of amazement. In all our centuries of fighting the Nexar, we never achieved a victory this complete. How did you know their tactics so well? We didn't, Zara replied. We just knew they'd never expect us to fight the way we did. The Nexar think they're invincible because they've never faced an enemy who thinks like us. That's about to change. As human forces secured the system, news of the victory spread quickly through subspace channels. Other species under Nexar control began to whisper about the newcomers who had done the impossible. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, by defeating an enemy that had never known defeat. The war was far from over, but Operation Stormbreak had changed everything. The Nexar Empire was no longer invincible, and humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Reza Khoury gazed at the massive holographic display in the war room of humanity's new forward command base. 6 months had passed since Operation Stormbreak, and the map of known space had changed dramatically. Red zones marked Nexar-controlled territory, blue showed liberated systems, and green highlighted the growing number of worlds that had joined the human-led alliance. The Centauri have officially joined us, announced Ambassador Kaichin, his diplomatic uniform adorned with both Earth and alien insignias. Their crystal forging abilities complement our manufacturing capabilities perfectly. The Centauri were the latest in a growing list of species throwing their support behind humanity. Tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin and 4 arms, they had maintained careful neutrality in the war until now. Their decision to ally with Earth sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Nexar are adapting faster than expected, reported Dr. Aisha Hassan, head of tactical analysis. Her holographic image flickered as she transmitted from the front lines. They're beginning to copy some of our maneuvers, though without understanding the principles behind them. Reza nodded grimly. The Nexar were learning, but like all their adaptations, it was purely instinctual. They could mimic human tactics but couldn't grasp the strategic thinking behind them. Still, even a copied strategy could be dangerous with the numbers they commanded. "Show me the Arcturus campaign," he ordered. The display shifted, showing a massive space battle in progress. Human and allied ships danced through complex formations, their movements coordinated by quantum-linked AIs that could react faster than organic minds. The battle highlighted how far humanity had come. Earth ships now incorporated technology from multiple species, meridian crystals, Centauri forgecraft, and other innovations from newly liberated allies. But it was human ingenuity that combined these elements in ways their original creators never imagined. "We've confirmed reports from Deep Space Reconnaissance," said Commander Wei Lu, emerging from the secure communications room. "The Nexar are abandoning their outer colonies, pulling back to defend their core systems. They're learning fear," Ambassador Chen observed. Perhaps for the first time in their history. The war had evolved beyond anything either side expected. What began as a defensive action around Earth had expanded into a crusade of liberation. Each freed world brought new allies, new technologies, and new resources to the human-led coalition. But victory came with costs. The holographic display showed dozens of markers representing destroyed Earth ships and fallen soldiers. Humanity had learned to fight in space, but they'd paid for that knowledge in blood. "The Nexar have begun targeting civilian populations," Dr. Hassan reported, her expression grim. "They're trying to break our allies will to fight. They still don't understand us," Reza said. "Threats to civilians don't weaken human resolve, they strengthen it." The proof was in the numbers. Every Nexar atrocity led to increased recruitment, both from Earth and allied worlds. The enemy's attempts at psychological warfare backfired, turning more species against them. A new alert flashed across the display. The Nexar had launched a major offensive against 3 systems simultaneously, trying to split the Alliance's forces. But Reza smiled. They'd predicted this move weeks ago. "Execute Operation Thunderstrike," he commanded. Hidden fleet elements emerged from carefully prepared positions, catching the Nexar forces in a massive crossfire. The enemy had learned to copy human tactics, but they couldn't match human strategic thinking. "Remarkable," said High Speaker Lyra, who had joined them in the command center. "In centuries of warfare, we never imagined fighting the Nexar like this." "That's because you fought defensively," Ambassador Chen explained. "Humans understand that the best defense is sometimes a strong offense." The tactical display updated continuously as reports flowed in from across the front. Allied forces had liberated 17 systems in the past month alone. More importantly, they'd captured key Nexar production facilities, cutting off the enemy's ability to replace losses. "Their biological ships take months to grow," Dr. Hassan noted. "Our new hybrid factories can produce vessels in weeks. We're outbuilding them." But the Nexar weren't finished. Intelligence reported they were developing new biological weapons, attempting to counter human technological advantages. The enemy was evolving, becoming more dangerous even as they lost ground. "They're preparing something big," Commander Liu warned, studying new data from deep cover agents. "Their remaining fleet elements are gathering near their home system." "Let them come," Reza said confidently. "Every time they mass their forces, we prove why that's a mistake." The war had entered a new phase. What began as humanity fighting for survival had become humanity leading a galactic revolution. Species that had lived under Nexar dominion for generations now looked to Earth for leadership. "The Arcturians are requesting human advisors for their defense forces," Ambassador Chen reported. "The Rigelians want to establish joint training programs. Even the Sigma cluster worlds are considering joining the alliance." Reza studied the galactic map thoughtfully. The Nexar Empire had ruled through fear for millennia, believing their biological advantages made them invincible. But they'd never encountered a species like humanity, one that saw their biological nature not as an advantage, but as a weakness to be exploited. "We're not just winning battles," he observed. "We're changing how the galaxy thinks about warfare, about cooperation, about resistance to tyranny." The display updated again, showing new victory markers across multiple sectors. The tide hadn't just turned, it had become a tsunami, washing away centuries of Nexar dominion. But Reza knew better than to celebrate too early. Cornered predators were always most dangerous. "Prepare all forces for Phase 4, he ordered. "The Nexar are gathering for one final push. When they do, we'll be ready, not just to defeat them, but to end their threat permanently." As the command center hummed with activity, Reza reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as refugees' last hope. They were emerging as leaders of the largest alliance in known space. The next phase would determine not just the outcome of the war, but the future of the galaxy itself. And humanity was ready to meet that challenge head-on. The massive war fleet hung in space like a constellation of artificial stars. Ships of every size and design, sleek human destroyers, crystalline meridian cruisers, organic Centauri vessels, and dozens of other alien craft, all united under a single banner. At their center, the EWS Defiance prepared for humanity's most ambitious operation yet. Fleet Admiral Marcus Rivera stood on the Defiance's bridge, his dark eyes fixed on the tactical display showing their target, the Nexar home system. After a year of warfare that had reshaped the galaxy, they had finally reached this moment. "All fleet elements report ready," announced Captain Yuki Tanaka, her hands dancing across the crystalline control interface. "The largest combined fleet in galactic history, Admiral. Over 3,000 capital ships. And each one necessary," Marcus replied. Intelligence suggested the Nexar had gathered every remaining ship to defend their homeworld. The final battle would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Dr. Hassan's hologram appeared, her image now wearing the insignia of the Combined Species Intelligence Division. "The latest deep scans confirm our suspicions. The Nexar are implementing their contingency plan. They're awakening the Queen Mother." The bridge fell silent. In all their history, the Nexar had never awakened their species' genetic source, the living repository of their race's biological weapons and evolutionary potential. Its awakening meant they were preparing to either achieve total victory or ensure nobody else could. "They still think biology is destiny," said High Speaker Lyra. her crystalline form pulsing with determination. They haven't learned that spirit matters more than flesh. The battle plan was the most complex ever attempted. While the main fleet engaged the Nexar defenses, special operations teams would strike key targets on the planet's surface. But the most crucial mission would fall to a single strike team. Commander Gene Park stood in the Defiance's launch bay, checking his team's equipment one final time. Their powered armor combined technologies from a dozen species, making them nearly invisible to Nexar biosensors. Each operator had been chosen for their unique skills and absolute dedication. Remember, Gene told his team, everything humanity has fought for comes down to this moment. The Nexar think their Queen Mother makes them invincible. We're going to prove them wrong. The signal was given. Across the massive fleet, weapons powered up and shields strengthened. The Nexar home system's defenses were formidable, orbital platforms, minefields of living weapons, and the largest concentration of enemy ships ever assembled. All ships, commence Operation Daybreak, Marcus commanded. The fleet split into predetermined attack groups, each one executing maneuvers that would have been impossible months ago. Human tactical innovations combined with alien technology created a symphony of destruction. The battle erupted like a new sun being born. Nexar ships launched waves of biological weapons, trying to overwhelm their enemies with sheer numbers. But the Allied fleet had trained for this, their coordinated defense systems creating killing zones that shredded the attacks. Multiple breaches in their outer defense line, Yuki reported. The Meridian Human Joint squadrons are breaking through exactly as planned. On the planet's surface, Jin's team moved through the massive hive cities of the Nexar homeworld. The architecture was organic, buildings grown rather than built, creating a nightmare landscape of twisted structures and pulsing passages. The Queen Mother's chamber is ahead, Jean whispered over the secure comm, just like the simulations. Remember, we only get one shot at this. They had studied the Nexar's biology extensively. The Queen Mother wasn't just their leader. She was the living database of their species' genetic potential. More importantly, she was their ultimate weakness. In orbit, the battle reached its crescendo. The Nexar fleet fought with desperate fury, their ships sacrificing themselves in suicide attacks. But human commanders had predicted this too, using the enemy's desperation against them. Now, Commander Park, Marcus ordered. In this, Jin's team breached the Queen Mother's chamber, fighting through waves of elite guard drones. The massive chamber pulsed with biological energy, and at its center lay their target, a creature the size of a small building, connected to the hive mind of every Nexar in existence. They deployed their weapon, not a bomb or a virus, but something uniquely human. A crystalline device that broadcast a simple message directly into the Nexar hive mind. Choice. For the first time in their history, every Nexar drone received the concept of individual thought, of free will. The effect was devastating. The hive mind fractured as millions of minds awakened to independence simultaneously. In space, Nexar ships stopped firing, their crews experiencing individual consciousness for the first time. On the planet, the massive hive cities fell silent as the drones broke free from centralized control. It's done, Jean reported, watching as the Queen Mother's connection to the hive mind dissolved. The Nexar Empire died not with a bang, but with an awakening. The aftermath transformed the galaxy. Most Nexar chose to accept the reality of their new existence, though some had to be contained while they learned to handle individual consciousness. The former Empire's territories were reorganized under a new Galactic Council, with Earth playing a leading role. 1 month later, Marcus stood in the newly constructed council chamber on Earth, watching representatives from hundreds of species gather for the first time as equals. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as refugees' last hope. They had emerged as the architects of a new era. We never imagined this outcome, High Speaker Lyra said, joining him at the window. When we came to Earth seeking help, we hoped for soldiers. Instead, we found something far more valuable, teachers of freedom. Marcus watched as human diplomats helped former enemies find common ground, as Earth scientists shared innovations that benefited all species. as the galaxy learned what humanity had known all along, that true strength comes not from conquest, but from cooperation. The Terran Age, Lyra mused, using the term other species had begun to apply to this new era. Your people have changed everything. No, Marcus corrected her. We all changed everything. Together. As the council session began, Marcus reflected on the price they'd paid to reach this moment. Earth had lost many of its best in the war, but their sacrifice had transformed not just humanity's future, but the destiny of countless species. The galaxy had called for aid, and humanity had answered with more than just wrath. They had brought hope, innovation, and a vision of freedom that transcended biological destiny. The age of empire was over. The dawn of a new galaxy had begun.